Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video, and Starfall is back. I've been experimenting with some different builds. I haven't 100% locked into what I think is going to be the most ideal, but this is what I have got so far that has been an absolute blast. I've been doubling the damage of pretty much anybody that I have come against with this build. I think it is particularly good at low radiance, particularly good in solo shuffle, and it's really good into double melee DPS, and especially resto druids, which are really popular right now. So this is going to be the best case for that. We're going to be covering what you need to do to maximize your damage, how to survive when you're being attacked by a melee cleave with this build in today's video. So first thing is first, get your dots up. This is going to really amp up your damage through your mastery. You really want to make sure Moonfire and Sunfire is on as many targets as possible at the same time. If you get stunned up, you do want to be using your Bark Skin. This is going to be the best time. I then use Thorns as a deterrent. Thorns is really effective into double melee DPS. I believe I dropped the Alk and Adapt. Our peel is not going to be Cyclones. Our peel is going to be damage and pressure. We're also running the Wild Mushrooms to get that third dot application, as well as Stellar Flare, which has kind of fallen out of flavor with the other builds of Balanced Druid, but with this one I found it to be particularly great in terms of maximizing your overall damage. We're going to bash up the Warrior, get control of the melee DPS while still dishing out as much damage as possible, and just maintaining dots on as many targets as we can. So we've got dots on all three, and at this point you really do want to prioritize attacking the target that doesn't have a life bloom. In this instance, we're going after the Ret Paladin. We force Iron Bark. This would be a really good time to then swap off the Ret Paladin either to the Warrior or to the Resto Druid, depending on their positioning and their situation. The Warrior's caught in a stun with a little amount of hots, so hitting him would be great. The Resto Druid is also caught in the middle of the bridge right now with very little hots, so he would be a great target. So either one of those would be perfect. We get stunned up here. We're playing really aggressively. Trinketing this Stormbolt is really reckless, honestly. But after trinketing this Stormbolt, we're going to cast Stellar Flares, get those triple dots going. You want to try and make sure that a Starfall is up at all times, so it's calling down these star bursts, these little blue circles on the ground. If you're experienced Balancer, you'll know what I'm talking about. You're going to be wanting to run into these star bursts and picking them up whenever possible, utilizing Thorns pretty much on cooldown whenever you know you're going to be the main focus target. So this Warrior's pretty much been tunneling me the whole game, so we're just going to Thorns again, and you can see that there's not a lot of focus on Cyclone. With this build, there's just a lot of focus on damage. Like, we're already accumulating double that of our opponents combined, and this is really important to maintain Stellar Flare for the triple dots. Run into the star bursts here in this position, run them into your target. It's going to give you Astral Power. It's going to be your main engine for generating Astral Power with this talent build with Stellar Innervation being nerfed. But now our Shaman is stunned. You do need to be, take considerations for peeling depending on who they're attacking, and protecting your Shaman is really important. So I'm going to cast Cyclones. When they're attacking me, I just play away from the healer so they don't have to deal with interrupts and crowd control and kind of power through it. But if they go on the healer, you're going to have to switch gears. We Cyclone the Paladin, we knock the Warrior off the side. We want to be killing that War Banner as soon as possible so we can start utilizing more Cyclones into the near future if they continue to train down the Shaman. But we're stunned up at the moment. We're going to Lava Star Surge out, finish off the War Banner. We get the Ret Paladin stunned up in the middle of the map here. Could move forward for like a knockback. I think we end up going for a knockback, push him off the side. Unfortunately, he catches the edge of the ramp, but always looking for knockbacks is something to kind of min-max your Balanced Druid play. I feel like Wild Charge and Typhoon are pretty underutilized amongst most Balanced Druids, so focusing on those spells is definitely going to open up more opportunities. Here we're going for a bash onto the Warrior. We've got the Ret Paladin low. We're also getting pretty low in this position, so we're going to use Renewal to try and recover. If you're interrupted on Cyclone, you can then cast Stellar Flare. That's what I really like about this build. Most people just only kick Cyclone immediately. We're going to pop Nature's Vigil on cooldown, although I have been considering dropping Nature's Vigil, but popping it on cooldown, just trying to get the maximum health per second out of it that you can. Everybody is low health here, so it's a great idea. It's going to get value no matter what. We're going to Thorns up, post a little bit closer to this narrow corridor. So these ramps are a really good place to stand to try and focus where the bombs are going to spawn, because the bombs won't spawn on the bottom when you're standing on the ramp. They'll basically condense here into the ramp. So getting a really narrow corridor, which is why Blades Edge is so good, because this bridge is considered a narrow corridor, is a really good way to manipulate where you can call in your stellar bombs and start getting those explosions and pressure. We're still just keeping damage on the Ret Paladin, trying to force him away from the Shaman as much as possible. We get Divine Shield here, seemingly off of nothing, right? We're not focusing on crowd control. We're just focusing on keeping Starfall up, our dots up, and doing as much damage as possible, and swapping around when appropriate. We got a couple starbursts here that the Paladin's about to run into. Unfortunately, he has Divine Shield, so he's going to be soaking those for free. Our Shaman is feared here. Whenever your healer's crowd controlled, going into bear form, pressing Bark Skin, considering rooting, considering knockbacks, keeping Iron for up, and focus on staying alive. That's going to be your main condition is enemies either have offensive cooldowns or your healer is CC'd, or both, which it is right now. Our Shaman is stunned and its wings up. You got to be really careful. But the Warrior's knocked downstairs, so I'm kind of just tanking the Ret Paladin in Balanced Druid form and waiting for my Bark Skin to come up. Our Shaman comes out of crowd control, big nature swiftness, we're back to full health. We force Iron Bark on the Warrior. We're swapping pressure back onto the Resto Druid in this position, and now we're just getting our Stellar Flares. If they get off of us, we can get Stellar Flares onto 3 targets. It's going to be really easy. We can use our Wild Mushrooms as well as an emergency measure if we're getting trained for that triple dot pressure to make sure that we're getting the Twilight Equilibrium, I believe it's called, for having 3 dots on a target. We knock the Ret off the side of the bridge. You can see that this is pretty miserable for the melee cleave, and this is a great build to utilize. I'm going to be using this more in solo shuffle, I think, when I get this type of matchup where it's melee DPS, I'm playing with a caster, or we're fighting a Resto Druid where, tunneling a target is not going to be a really good strategy. You need to be doing damage to multiple targets and forcing them to hot 3 players so that they're running out of mana faster. Here we stun the Warrior, so I'm just going to use my bash on the Ret instead, get him dotted up, knock him off the side. Now we don't need to worry about him too much. It's just the Warrior. Our Shaman should be able to heal through this, keep dots on the Druid as he's moving forward, and we get an Incarnation proc in this moment, which is going to be really great. This is the fun part about this build, is that after you've spent a certain amount of Astral power with the Arcanic Pulsar, you're going to just start proccing Eclipses, which can really catch your opponents off guard. And in this situation, it forces Die by the Sword from the Warrior, almost dying through Die by the Sword. Actually, almost does die through Die by the Sword with the Magic Pop at 1%. And we force major defensive cooldowns with the Arcanic Pulsar proc. And look what's coming up in 17 seconds. We've got our main Incarnation coming up in 17 seconds. So now we've got a win condition. The Warrior doesn't have defensives. We could swap to the Druid. We just need to survive to that moment. So here, Warrior has activated cooldowns. We got the Warbreaker on us right here. So we're just going to go into bear form. We're just going to tank them. We got the cooldowns with that Incarn proc. We need to focus on just making ourselves as stable as possible so that when our Incarnation comes up, we can absolutely dumpster everybody on the opposing side, and that's going to be what we do. We need to kill off this War Banner. We're trying to pay attention to where the melee are going. Are they CCing the Shaman? Are they attacking me? Shaman's in a Hammer of Justice, lobbing out Star Surges, keeping the Ret Paladin low. We've got Incarnation. I do a jump back Typhoon. This can be a really good play when you're in a panic situation. It gets me completely away from the Ret Paladin. I don't have to worry about dying, and he just kind of gets finished off by the Mage before I even get to use my Incarnation. So this is a surprisingly fun build still. Even despite the nerfs to Starfall specifically, and it's one that I'm definitely going to be experimenting at least a little bit more with. I would not recommend it if you're looking to play a control style. I also think it's not particularly strong against double caster. It's really like small maps, melee DPS, which is pretty common. I see this on people who come to my stream a lot, where they're saying, hey, I'm really struggling with melee DPS. They're training me. I don't know what to do, and I can't seem to figure out how to win. It's also way more powerful in solo shuffle because dampening starts faster, and dampening is obviously going to make damage more valuable, which is what this build is going to provide to you. So if you're in solo shuffle, you're struggling with melee DPS, I think that this build, which will be linked in the description down below, is going to be a good pickup and honestly a lot of fun. I think it's a lot more beginner friendly as well. So I was thinking about maybe even just trying it in every situation, but I can see lobbies where like maybe you got like a Warlock, a Hunter, Mage or something where it's not really going to work. They're going to be able to move around the bombs a lot more easily. Thorns obviously is not going to be giving you any value, and you're going to be getting interrupted a lot. It can be really tough in those situations, but with double melee DPS, I think it's super valuable. A lot of fun, honestly. I almost just want to play it more just because it is so much fun. Other than that, I hope that you guys enjoyed this PvP breakdown. If you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you're never missing a beat when it comes to World of Warcraft, and I will see you in the next video.